Is the future set? If not, how can people predict the future? I mean, you may think Nostradamus got his fame from a few lucky guesses, and the so-called Nostradamus scholars twist the vague quatrains to suit their interest. So, do I consider myself a Nostradamus scholar? Of course not. The closest time for me to become a scholar was when I got a 4.0 GPA as a schoolboy. But did I twist Nostradamus's vague tales? I did. But not to mislead you, but to show you how the Nostradamus prophecies can be twisted. Actually, my twist on this commonly believed Hitler quatrain was so convincing when I showed you how I can find facts to support the interpretation, which was meant to be about President Trump. Trump supporters jumped in to attack me before reaching the part when I said it was a joke. However, I did find enough support to point to this quatrain as a prediction about Napoleon instead of Hitler. So I tried hard to untwist some Nostradamus quatrains, and I was shocked on its accuracy. Like, this one gave a super detailed description about the recent Vegas shootings. Even pointed to a casino past Paris and Orleans. And draw a line on those two casinos, and you get the site of the shooting. It pointed the shooting from a rooftop, when there are young people playing outdoors, and when the festival... His Century 1 book contains detailed descriptions on all wars for the past 500 years. And his Century 2 contains mostly doomsday predictions. He foretold the unfair trial of Queen Mary of Scots, the nickname the French revolutionaries gave to King Louis XVI during his trial. The assassination of Lincoln, JFK, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and guess what? A bunch of quatrains about President Trump, his administration, and a date he most likely will be stepping down. So, how can I call other people's interpretations twisted and mine twinkling? Well, for one thing, I believe it may take more than 4 lines to warn us, and Nostradamus may group related quatrains together. Actually, I was stunned when I found many quatrains were taken as dead-on a line-by-line basis. People can't even find a trace of connection on the before and after, but find a vague line and twist it to fit. And shockingly, people have believed them. So I found clusters and clusters of quatrains, found relationships between the quatrains and related events. My interpretation was original, different, and mostly ignored. Well, what can I say? When you only like twisted pretzels, my straight presentations unfortunately turned off many people's appetite. But one problem most people have with Nostradamus's prophecy is its lack of a timeline. I can make a bold prediction that you will die, and I will achieve 100% accuracy if I do not give a timeline. So Nostradamus's prophecy is worse than the news archives. At least news archives have dates, while warnings without details may be a good strategy to sell books, as everyone since 500 years ago bought in on the fear factors. But I have to defend Nostradamus on that. He does have timelines. It is just really hard to understand them. For example, the quatrains about President Trump, Hitler, and Napoleon give us a timeline, as we know the era it pointed to. Unfortunately, we usually make the connection after the disasters, and it may just be too late. But I would not be here if I gave up easy. To untangle Nostradamus' twisted book of prophecy, I compared it with the 1300-year-old Chinese prophecy of Tui Tu. Although there are only 60 poems, it follows a strict timeline and has predicted dynasty changes and major wars 1,300 years in a row. It is so precise, the names of current China and Taiwan presidents and several past ones were mentioned in the poems. I hate to tell you, but comparing these two prints, a very gruesome picture of our future. So I decided to cross-reference Nostradamus' Book of Prophecy with the Chinese prophecy and also with the Nostradamus of the Balkans, Baba Vanga. Baba Vanga was a normal girl till she was lifted by a tornado and lost her vision when she was a child. She then gave us many predictions till her death at age 85 in 1996. It was said that her prophecies had a 85% hit rate. That is actually very good for a prophet, especially when she gives out a precise timeline on her predictions. Before comparing her to Nostradamus, let's first take a look at her prophecy. To make sure you are not totally bored, we will stop at year 2100. 2018, New China becomes a world power. 2023, small change in the Earth's orbit. 2025, people were said to leave Europe in 2014, but that did not happen. And she predicted Europe to still be mostly an empty shell in 2023. In 2028, she predicts a new energy source, maybe a controlled thermonuclear. Humans win war against hunger, and a manned mission to Venus. 2033, melting of polar ice. 2043, thriving world economy, Muslims take over Europe. 2046, organ and human cloning. 2066, new weapon used by USA against Muslim Rome. And instant cooling, weather weaponizing. 2076, classless society, communism again. 2084, nature restoration. 2088, a new disease, get old quick. 2097, cure for rapid aging. 2100, artificial sun illuminates the dark side of the earth. It was funny that CNN broadcasted just yesterday how China expanded its influence around the world when the United States retreated. Will 2018 be the year of global domination? Let's see what Nostradamus said about China. In Century 6, Quatrain 80, quote, "From Fez the realm will reach those of Europe. Their city ablaze and the blade will cut. The great one of Asia by land and sea with great troop. So the Blues and Persian the cross will pursue to death." Because the Great One is by sea and land, we know for sure it must not mean Japan, because Japan is only by sea. It should not be about Russia, because even though Russia has its Asia half, Russia is considered a mostly European country. It could be about China or India. China has 3.3 million total military personnel, while India has almost 5 million. Although only 1.4 million are in active duty compared with China's 2.2 million. If we compare the gross domestic product, China is on top with over 11 trillion, while India stood at number 3 with slightly over 2 trillion. So I really can't say for sure if this quatrain is about China or India. But if I were to bet, I would say it's about China. So, what does this quatrain mean? Fez actually means red hat. And there's only one country known to favor red hat. That's President Trump. So that confirms the timeline. I am not 100% sure what the city ablaze means. But there was a huge fire in London's Grenfell Tower in June 2017 with 24 deaths, followed by Barcelona's July fire in which 22,000 were forced to evacuate. But that was nothing compared to the Northern California fires that have killed 42 and destroyed 6,700 homes and 220,000 acres. So the blues and Persian, the cross will pursue to death. I would assume this is about the United States' plan to cancel the Iran nuclear deal, as Persia was mentioned in line 4 with blues hinting sadness and pursue to death. So I think this confirms an age of power by land and sea will dominate the world stage at the time when fire ravages many cities and the talk of an Iran nuclear deal divides Europe and the United States. The next prediction is about the Earth's orbit change. Honestly, the closest I can find on that is in Century 4, Quatrain 80, quote, "Near the great river, great ditch, earth drawn out. In 15 parts will the water be divided. The city taken fire, blood, cries, sad conflict. And the greatest part involving the Colosseum." You may think I am crazy calling this being about the Earth's orbit change. But do you know what drawn out means? It means prolonged, lengthened, dragged out, according to Thesaurus Plus. I know how you may call that stretching, but that may be the best interpretation on Earth drawn out, as it is incomprehensible to imagine Earth drawn out only near the great river and great ditch. So line 1 could mean Earth's change of orbit, which would cause huge problems everywhere. Conflicts, fire, blood, cry, while the worst part is the war to fight for water and resources like fighting in the Colosseum. It is a fight for survival. The next Baba prediction is about people leaving Europe. She said in her prediction for 2016 that, quote, "Europe will cease to exist. The continent will lose almost all of its population." Of course, that did not happen. But she also predicted that the population in Europe will reach almost zero. I know many of you would disagree with me, but the 2016 prophecy is not necessarily untrue. The word she used was, "Europe will cease to exist." And Brexit happened in 2016. That really changed the European Union. This is the beginning of the falling apart of the European Union. Will Europe become a Muslim continent? Let's see if that is possible. According to Wikipedia, the aging of Europe is because of a decrease in fertility, a decrease in the mortality rate, and a higher life expectancy among European populations. Low birth rates and a higher life expectancy. Europe is getting old quick. And it is not a matter of if, but a question of when the Europe we know will be completely gone. As you can see from this map, other than France and Italy, Europe is old and will be getting older. The number would have looked even worse if not a big young French Muslim community. The recent immigrants in many countries' strong Catholic beliefs of banning birth control. However, compared with the war-torn Middle East, Europe is still a paradise. So I can see why Muslims would move to Europe if opportunities allow. However, that change should be gradual, not sudden. So the only reason people will run away from Europe would only be after a major catastrophe. For that, Nostradamus had plenty of warnings about the destruction to come upon the Mediterranean coast. If that happens, I have no doubt that many people will move to Australia, Canada, and the United States. And if Baba is right, something big, bad, and ugly will soon happen. Actually, there are so many such warnings in Nostradamus' book. I group them in days according to Nostradamus. But if you don't have time to check them out, look for quatrain 284, 288, 291, 295, 296, and 944. Nostradamus even uses such phrases as, quote, leave every last one of you. I guess we have to wish for both Baba and Nostradamus to be wrong on this. The prophecy for 2028 is about the discovering of a new energy source. I think that is great news. But the drive to fight hunger may be the reason for such an invention. So we can only imagine what happened before we finally get that relief. 2033 is about melting polar ice. But that is something we already know and expect. 2043 is about Muslims taking over Europe and a thriving world economy. I have to say that it comes as a surprise to me, as I can't see how we can thrive in a changed world like that. But I guess humans may prove to be stronger. The predictions Baba made after 2043 seem logical and possible, but I'm not sure if it is about us or a post-doomsday Earth. I have to say, Baba's predictions are a little bit rosier than Nostradamus's, as his are definitely scary. This is Ken Peters. Thank you for watching.